Hey everyone, and welcome to 10 Talks. I'm your host, Kyle Garza.
I'm your co-host, Donald Tyler Trimble.
And I'm your co-host, Nicholas Christopher Bustow, the first.
And I'm Kyle Steven Garza. Does that count? Today we're going to be talking to you guys a little bit about the subject of the phenomena of the early millennials technology. The big leaps that we saw in those early 90s years that forever changed the landscape of what it would be to live in the information age. For example, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the sound of dial-up internet.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
And as you say that and you hear in your head just the screeching and the beeping and the yelling, and then there was the actual internet, because I was talking about my mother when she came home and found out I was using the internet and had been trying to call the house.
Yes. Yes.
And was super ticked off at me because I was on, Command and Conquer playing some kind of game with my friend Declan when this was like, oh wow, we're on the internet like together doing something.
Command and Conquer. Oh,
wow. Man. Wow, what a day that was. Yeah, so dial-up internet, dude. That was wild. What a weird time where all of a sudden my school assignments became look it up on the internet.
Right.
And it was expected that everyone could do that.
Yeah.
Because it was far enough into the 90s where like the home computer was so commonplace that like it was expected that you had that.
But you didn't do your school assignment because you ran home and you logged into America Online. And you found a lady and you're like, hey.
Do you remember AIM? Do you remember AIM too?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's how I met my wife.
That's right. Okay, I remember we talked about this. Okay, yeah.
I know it's a special place in my heart. I mean, like, we looked online, like, it's still a thing at like AIM? And like they finally like got rid of it like I think only 2 years ago.
No,
and
really, it's
I
dead?
felt like I genuinely felt sad. Like the thing that brought us together, I'm like, it's gone. It'd be like going to your childhood home and then seeing like it's been bulldozed and turned like a condo.
You just blew my mind though that existed 2 years ago because like,
yeah,
why?
Yeah. Yeah, hearing that like old things like that are still around and people are still doing them.
I'm all for keeping a Blockbuster open, but what? America Online?
I know, it's like we have phones now. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Although it was a really big deal, getting home and seeing your friends hop on. And I guess that was weird too, because like the only purpose there was to it was to just talk to each other. There were no games integrated into it or anything like that.
So like, they had one thing I discovered was that like America Online also had, forums, and like forums became a thing, and so
you were allowed to go into forums. Like that was shady business in my house.
Well, they were gaming ones. And so they're like highly regulated.
They were gaming ones, and then Chris Hansen showed up at your house, man.
So messed up.
It's fine. He met his wife that way. It counts. It's okay.
Dude, my parents were right there too, though. Like, if they saw me on regular AOL, and I'm like, that's Josh from school. They're like, no, it's not.
How do you
Don't
know?
talk to my son ever again.
I got that a couple times. Like the random, like, this is Sheila's father. Stop speaking with her. It's like, whoa, what?
Dude. That's so sad.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying about that?
No, just forum things like that, like just other things that were on America Online. But our computer was like so slow. But so slow. Like you had time to click the link. It was a little globe to access the actual internet instead of just America Online.
Right.
Once I clicked it, I had time to go into the kitchen, like make a snack.
Yeah.
Maybe a sandwich.
Yeah.
Then
this is so true.
Come back, and by then it was almost ready for you to type something in. But tell me this happened to you guys, because I feel kind of stupid. I do tell my students this too, because I'll play the sound for them to explain, like, this is how
the dial-up sound.
Dial-up sound. And I literally thought the first time that I logged in and I heard that, because no one told me what that sound was, I thought the computer was frying from the inside.
Oh no, it was screaming in pain.
Yeah, and so I'm like, Mom, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. And then she's like, no, honey, that's the sound. I'm like, then in my head, I'm like, why?
Why make that the sound?
Yeah. It couldn't be anything else, like the William Tell Overture, like anything. Like that's the noise. So
that actually raises a really interesting question. Was that a chosen sound, or was that
it
actually just
it
like a
had to be.
byproduct of whatever it was?
But that would be so weird. Like every computer has that exact same noise.
Yeah, why
like,
would that be the appeal? Like, who in the marketing department was like, it needs to sound like robots dying?
This is a really good question.
Wow.
Someone has to know this. Someone, if you're watching this, comment below. Tell us why.
See, but it is so weird to like talk about then like where we were and how like just the innocence of like well, I'm breaking the computer. I'm putting it into some pain. But like I was just talking to my wife about like the power. She remembers when like her siblings, they had for some reason their parents thought it was cool to give them like their personal line, but at home, right, through a corded phone.
Yeah, my sister
and how like
got her in a lot
just
of trouble.
Like, yeah, well, dude, and then what has happened with us like going to like this personalization of everything, and then like, oh my gosh, like I remember in 6th grade sitting on the phone with my girlfriend that I had for way too long. I was in 6th grade. My mommy did not know, and I'm like
watching Zach and Cody.
And I think we were watching SpongeBob, something of the sort. Okay,
while on the phone.
I'm on the phone.
I did that once. Not gonna lie.
She's at her home. And we were just freaking out at how she had Dish and she was getting SpongeBob faster than me. And I'm like, that's not okay.
Faster.
And I even remember I tried to dump her in 6th grade over the phone. And she was like, no. Like,
it doesn't count over the phone.
I'm dumping you. You're going to a different high school and they were splitting them off after our 6th grade. I'm going to dump you. And like my mom like getting on the phone at the same time and being like, honey, you just need to let it go, okay? You just and like that idea of anybody can hop in, but now like where are we? And like what does that mean to put isolated. A computer onto a phone?
Yeah. No, I get you. That is a different world. I mean, keep in mind too, it was also I think a controversial thing whether or not you had a TV in your room.
Yes.
I didn't know this. I didn't know this until later because I had one, and like in hindsight, that I should not have had a TV in my own room. But what that did was it gave you this like sort of isolated experience of whatever is going on completely unsupervised. And that I think kind of set the foundation for like the massive problem that it is today that parents don't understand what's on their kids' phones or how their kids' phones work and stuff like this, you know? Like the technology basically shot ahead so fast that our ability to monitor and safeguard kids from like what else was going on kind of just we lost touch with that. And so like I've heard of nightmare stories, for example, of parents in conferences with their teachers and their students there, right? And it's some issue that came up with the phone, and basically like the conversation devolves into well, there should be some degree of consequence here where the phone is taken away, and some parents respond with like, but it's their phone, we can't take that away from them. It's like, whoa, what? How did that perspective ever even become a thing in reality?
Yeah.
Like, what a bizarre notion.
Well, and then a student looking at you saying like, oh, I can't use this right now? I pay for it. I'm like, bro, I pay for my car and I'm not driving it through the school, okay? Yeah. What are you talking about? But like, it's this idea of then taking that like personalized experience and then the power that comes from it. It's freaky. Dude, I remember when Facebook was a thing where you had to like find someone else that had Facebook.
Yeah.
And then they had to like invite you to this secret organization.
No, I ignored it. I ignored it initially. My buddy Kyle invited me to it, and I literally thought, because the description was, it's like a website for sharing pictures. And I was like, I don't even have a camera, so this is useless for me. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
That was for sure the thing, right? It was pointless. I don't know. Like, it's weird how like those inventions of technology created a need that you didn't know you had, or I guess that no one really has. Like the need, for example, to connect online with people. Like that didn't used to be a thing. No. You had 4 or 5 friends that you could call or walk to their house, and that was your life. And you felt connected, and you had deeper, intimate friendships with, a couple people. Now it's like you have 1,000 plus, and it's a mix of acquaintances, friends, and I went to college with that person, and
which it doesn't connect you at all.
Other,
It just disconnects you, right?
Yeah.
But like, okay, I still remember being super young, and I don't know exactly how old I was, but I have my uncle from Germany who I since have gone and visited, but he was the coolest guy ever. His name's Jürgen. He comes over and he's sitting there, He works for Motorola, and I remember him pulling out this brick and like looking at us all and saying, "You guys, I'm working for Motorola, and I'm doing this prototype, and it's a phone that has a camera
And then you guys are like,
in it." And I remember sitting there and saying, like, I remember spitting this out, like, just this childhood innocence of, like, because I love how you said that, Kyle, like this idea of, like, technology getting us to the point to, like, you know, it's giving us things we didn't think or knew we needed, but then it just becomes so essential to life. I remember looking at him being like, a camera in a phone? Like, are they going to put cameras in fruit? Like, what is this? And, like,
the way your mind works, the things you jump to.
So I remember saying that. But, like, now we're to the point where, like, dude, if somebody, you know, like, you're on your phone and something big happens, you don't have that there instantly.
Right.
Like, that's changed our experience on Earth. It really has.
It has, yeah. The camera thing especially, because it's created this. I watched a news story on this once. It was about, like, the bystander effect, where if people see crazy things going down, they're more inclined to just record it than they are to help.
Right.
Like, that's weird. That's
because
scary.
then they think that's how I'm helping.
Yeah,
Recording
exactly.
it. Yeah.
It was you could probably find it on YouTube, actually. It was a social experiment where they had a dude posed as, like, a child kidnapper. And they instructed this kid, they're both actors, to basically say, like, help, this is not my dad, someone help me. And, like, a majority of people would just, like, watch or, like, laugh about it or record it and then, like, haha with whoever they're walking with. 2 guys, I think it was, like, actually ran up on this dude and were going to do something. And he was like, wait, I'm just an actor. Nothing's happening here. But, like, that, think about how weird that is, that would be a scenario that everybody would normally react to with, like, whoa, something's going on. Maybe I should do something. And it's become more commonplace to just, you know, be a bystander, to do nothing about it, etc.
Well, and there's a well-known one. It's like a case that some public crime happened. I think it was in New York, and there's, like, apartments and people they knew saw it, but everybody just assumed somebody else reported it.
Oh.
It's a really famous thing that they talk about in psychology. But, like, so here's what, like, where I get to, right? Like, okay, so what has technology done? This evolution of technology, has it made us more inclined to not report or do something ourselves? And, like, I know for me, the moment that I was like, I'm abstaining from this, and I take it as a badge of honor, like, when I say, like, I'm a part of the Facebook generation, and then I stopped. Because I remember, just like you're talking, Kyle, like, going so far. I mean, I was pretty late in high school, and I'm like, nope, stupid, nope, okay. And then, like, my wife won't let me delete it.
Right.
And now, I remember Snapchat coming out.
Yeah.
And something in me just getting super upset. And like, thinking about this idea of going from, come on, we were talking about, like, I don't know if that was a good dial-up sound, but we went from, like, that, like, click, go make a sandwich, come back, to, like, now make everything so temporary that what you just saw in a millisecond is going to be deleted. And why? And, like, taking everything to temporal, dude, the second that happened, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to Facebook and I'm going to ask my wife every day, please let me delete this. And that's it.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth on that too. But, like, I really wonder what that's done to us as a people.
Yeah.
Right? Getting to the temporal. It's a freaky thing.
So there's a book that I started reading over the summer called Technopoly by a dude named Neil Postman, who wrote a bunch in the 80s about what he suspected would happen to culture as, like, televisions and computers became more prominent, more commonplace in, like, the social discourse marketplace, right? Like, how people talk to each other about things. So he's got this whole chapter on just the emergence of, like, the major technological forms that we didn't realize were going to reshape the way we do things, again, namely computers and televisions, and how it kind of got away from us, and that we didn't realize what it was doing to our perceptions of the world around us. Like, I don't know, the weird fact, for example, that someone can watch something on the news and you're seeing it with your eyes, right? But now it's sort of, like, ingrained in us that I can't trust that this is real or that this is actually the whole thing because I'm not seeing the full clip, or I don't know if it's been edited or things like this.
Wow.
So it's like, honestly, to me, it's one of the greatest arguments, I think, for, like, how people used to think, especially in the ancient world, about seeing things with your eyes. It was before the age of Photoshop, before the age of I can fake anything. I mean, I've seen buddies of mine for example, who are like experts in Photoshop and video production and such, and they can make things in an image disappear and run through a full video where a thing that is there is no longer there, or vice versa.
I took a class in college where our first assignment, it was a Photoshop class. We had to get a really old photo, and most of us were trying to find photos that were hitting over like 100 years old, right? And mine, it was cut in half. And you have to make it look as if there was never any issue with the photo.
Yeah.
And like doing that made me realize like what you're talking about is the idea of a curated life. And even being a person, having your Instagram and deciding like, well, this is my good side.
Right.
This is the only side that will project to the world, when, bro, that's another side of you. And when in your life can you decide what you are when you are what you are? And like, which then it goes into the whole idea of this is what the postmodern world is. It's not like, it's a world of confusion. Not only do I not understand how monies are really working in this world, I don't understand how anything works. It's just, it's a life of confusion.
Did you ever watch the like behind the scenes stuff on how they did The Parent Trap, the remake with Lindsay Lohan?
Never did, no.
It was like a full look into just the tech, basically, that puts a single actress into, you know, the same shot, but as two different people, basically. I remember watching that as a kid thinking, like, that is weird. That is unreal. Or like, really what it was watching that movie and then finding out that's not a set of twins. That's actually one person. Like, that alone to me was like, whoa, they can do that now? That's weird. And it's also like frightening, I guess, because obviously like this was also the age where E-Bombs World was like the go-to website for a lot of teenagers.
Dude, yes.
For, you know, obviously like Flash player games, stuff like this, and you were watching and seeing. It was in many ways it was YouTube before there was YouTube. Yeah. But you were watching things where it's like this looked like real life, but it wasn't, and it became like this weird game with your friends to try to watch videos and determine what was real and what wasn't. And I don't know, it changed reality and our perceptions of reality.
See, and that's the freaky thing though, is did it change reality? No.
Again, perceptions of reality.
Is truth subjective? No. But that's the problem right there. Like that's what's happened. Is like we don't know what is real and what is perceived, and like so easily you can skew content for so many people to eat up.
And it started in like the casual realm of just ordinary people sharing that stuff with you. Like I remember, I don't know where you guys were. Maybe you were one of them. The first people that owned iPhones. It was my buddy Jordan, and we were in line. I knew that iPhones were a thing, and the only thing I really knew about them was that they had touch screens. Which seemed ridiculous to me because I had, you know, a standard flip phone with T9 texting.
Circle scroll thing.
Yeah. Like
I remember hoping that they would come out with the circle scroll on the first iPhone. I'm like, I really like.
They call it a retro edition. Costs an extra $100. But I remember being in line for a concert. I think it was a Seosin concert with Jordan. And he pulled out his iPhone and he was playing games on it. And we're standing in line. And I just remember having like this weird interaction where it was like, we could just be standing in line waiting like everybody else, but now he has access to this device that takes him into this other world and does things that, like, again, like to me, they were manufactured needs. The need to escape from boredom by playing a game on his phone. And admittedly, like, he let me try it and I played with it and, you know, played stuff on it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. But like that, and in hindsight, thinking how weirdly prevalent that now is for the next generation, where dangerously, I think, how often parents resort to the device as babysitter or as pacifier, really, right? Like, I don't know what to do with the kid, so here's a device with 20 games on it. Have fun. Stay occupied. It's infected everything.
I'm in college. And I become like super, I believe, convicted just about a lot of what we were talking about. Like I would feel so bad if like, I just hate that thing in a moment. Like, dude, we've gone beyond this. I don't know when this happened, 10 years ago? What, maybe, where like people would just be in a room and like just that, dude, when you go into a room and you don't know people, everybody feels that. That's human. What? You're freaked out. You're like, how do I interact? And instead of doing that, what do we do now? We don't interact with people.
Nope.
We're like, woohoo!
Okay, that's a great point.
This is a wall. This is a veil. Right. that we just love to just shroud ourselves in, right? And I remember just becoming convicted and hating it. Like, I love the awkward. I've always loved the awkward. Please, more awkward. Okay. And I remember just going on Craigslist, and I had just got a pretty new iPhone. I don't know what version it was. It was probably only like the 4 back then. And like, I just posted it, and I remember selling it for like a couple $100, probably under what I should have, just because I wanted to get rid of it. And I even got there, and the dude was like, "Oh, dude, I'm $50 short." And I like looked at the gas station, and I was like, "Go in there and get me a beef jerky and a Sprite, or just take my iPhone. Like, I don't want this in my life." Because, dude, it freaks me out, this idea of having your universe right here and what it has really done to us. I've always told people they may sell these, which I don't even think, right? Like, you open up your iPhone, there's no how-to. It's going to tell you as you go through it, right? But they have never sold these with like, how does this best integrate into your life? Never sold these. And I've never heard, oh my gosh, it started to come up later, right? Where people have been talking about this, but man, we've jumped into this head first. Man, I'm preaching right now. You guys, I gotta stop. I'm about to get rid of my iPhone again.
No, it's fine, because you're not saying anything wrong.
I went well into like my teaching career, and I still have students now. Like, if I post, because I won't like friend them on Facebook until like after, they graduated. But I'll like post something on Facebook, and they'll be like, "Whoa, Tribble, you got a phone now?" Like, because they remember me with this brick. And I actually came to Oaks with a brick still, but I did this for GPS.
That makes sense.
That's how much I believe in this stuff.
Nice. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, not to get too philosophical, but maybe. So one thing that I teach in history class is the birth of the European coffee house and the exchange of ideas, and how it eliminated it helped break down barriers in terms of social class, because you could have someone who was wealthy and someone who was very poor, 2 different classes, but in a coffee house, you were all treated the same. So they would sit next to each other and discuss religion, politics, economics, over coffee, which literally cost a penny. So they were actually called penny universities, because you could go in there, they had newspapers out, someone would buy a newspaper, but they would read it and then they'd leave it for the next person to sit down to enjoy it for free. And that's how information was traveled. But what I teach the students is, that it's not, part of it is the explosion of ideas, but also how you got those ideas. So in a coffee house, you would read a newspaper left behind by somebody, or you would interact with someone and they would tell you their perspective on things, and you'd have to listen and you'd have to respond. If you literally could not go into a coffee house and just keep to yourself, they would ask you to leave because you are not contributing to the overall atmosphere. And students hear that and like, wow. And I go, yeah. And the coffee shop today is no different than it was back then. Like, there is no difference at all. They serve coffee, they serve tea, they serve snacks. That's the point. And I tell them, go in there and tell me, do you see people interacting with one another? Yes or no? And a week later, they'll come back and they'll say, all I see are people on phones. And they will tell me this. They'll say, that's sad. I want to hear talking. And I tell them, me too. So part of this, with technology, and it started with, I'm not saying like kids these days, it's been a thing for a long time. It's the idea that we do have access to all this information, but how are we getting it? Because that's part of the fun, really.
And I think it too is we don't realize it's actually part of the learning. I can't remember the name of the guy, but they came up with the adage, the medium is the message, where you kind of lose sight of how much your thinking is impacted by how things are communicated to you. Again, this was the problem of television and computers in the information age, is that you were inundated with all these sources of things. They occupied the same space on a screen, and so it was hard to differentiate between what was trustworthy and what was not. I mean, I think about like how weird it is, for example, that like there's young kids that are being taught in classes like how to differentiate between news sources and like the bias spectrum of what that is, because of just how familiar it is to all of us, really, to just hear all kinds of different perspectives on the same thing, which is healthy and that's good. But it's also weird that there's so much of that we don't see other people are interacting with. Like, there's not like a common medium that everyone's sort of going through. Like, none of us are aware of what other YouTube videos you or I have seen, what podcasts you or I have read, articles and all the and more dangerously than anything, the stuff that gets passed around on social media that passes for news or journalism, but it's really just ordinary citizens tweeting things or posting memes on things that condense complicated issues into 140 characters or whatever the Twitter count is. That's bizarre. That's bizarre.
No, for sure. Well, it in the end, people are just creating their own realities. Whatever memes they dig, whatever news sites they dig, that's the only thing that's on their screen. Actually, that's the only thing that they're saving. That's the only thing that they want to read. And anything that doesn't agree, it goes into like the idea of cancel culture, right? Well, it's just not a part of their life.
You're talking about what sounds like the idea of the echo chamber. That I just want to hear more of the things that reinforce what I already think. That is, I guess that is kind of the trouble with algorithms in general. This is the thing I found with Facebook. And again, this is when Facebook was first a thing. It really was just people. It was just my friends and pictures of their kids and their dog and food they ate eventually and stuff like this, right? And that was all it was. But then all of a sudden, I don't know when or where this happened, Facebook became everyone talking about news and articles and advertisements and all the rest of it. And it was weird to see that space shared with so many other things that felt like it didn't belong there at first. Like and the reason I think it matters especially is because this is what I think is so upsetting to people on social media is the same space that I perhaps only use for keeping up with my family or keeping up with, like ordinary life is now also the source of I didn't want to hear this perspective from this person and how here it is loudly blasting through. Like it's interesting how politics especially and just really, divisive things found their way into what was once just a keeping up with the Joneses kind of system.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh, bizarre, man.
I'm gonna go sell my phone.
Any last things you can think of? I would be remiss if I didn't mention sound. I mean literally like sound on a computer. Dude. Because as a little kid, I remember I think we had Duke Nukem. I don't know if it was Duke Nukem 3D or just regular Duke Nukem, but we didn't have speakers. So I actually was able to play that game as a kid because it wasn't that scary. Went to my cousin's house who, had a sound card and everything and speakers. And I was like, this is terrifying. I'm never playing this. that was a weird progression for me. I don't know. Any small things like that?
Yeah, I'll give you one real quick. The progression of video games from 2 people playing at the same time to 4.
GoldenEye.
Before you would base entire parties based on one game, and because now 4 people can play. And then when you had LAN parties.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
I remember the first one of those. Yep. That was weird. What a weird time. First one I ever went to, someone went to microwave something and the power surged. Because it was like that, the 1 grain of rice that tipped the scale, basically. And they were like, turn it off.
So good.
One last thing, Don?
No, I just think there's something even about that LAN party. Like I remember being with my cross country team and they're in the other room, the other team, and we're on this, in this room and just screaming and running over and shaking people and being like, yeah. And how it was so interactive and it was not really about being on screen at all. And honestly, that's why I deliberate and I go back and forth and it really has been just this last year and being okay, and I'm in California and I don't know any of these streets. I need a GPS. And I had another GPS that it was one of those old TomToms. You guys know what those are?
Yes.
Not updated anymore. Oh my gosh. You'd be driving through where buildings would be and you're like, ah. But I don't know. It's just this idea of how do you really get back to wanting to reach out to the other? And that's what this is all about to me, right? That's what Jesus did. That's what he wanted to do. And I know that's what the enemy wants you to not do. He wants you to just know what you already know, not grow in your life and not, dude, we know other people through the Holy Spirit, right? That's in them. That's how we know God. And someone wants to stop that. So.
Yeah, so this episode of 10 Talks is brought to you by The Devil, now sponsoring iPhones.
You may not be too far off.
Oh my gosh. Well, until next time, we'll say once again, we love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.